In Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, there's no denying that tension is starting to build, and a lot of it seems to come from one person, Audrey. Mandy's mom has always been a complicated character, and while she's not the kind of villain you'd see twirling a mustache or plotting something evil, she's slowly becoming the show's emotional antagonist. The reason is simple: Audrey doesn't believe in Georgie, and that disbelief shapes so much of the conflict between the characters. From the start, Audrey has made it clear that she doesn't think Georgie is good enough for her daughter. When young Sheldon first introduced Mandy's family, Audrey immediately came across as judgmental and skeptical of Georgie's intentions. And, to be fair, she had her reasons. Georgie was a high school dropout, working at a tire shop, and a few years younger than her daughter. To a protective mother, that would be a lot of red flags. But in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, those same doubts haven't gone away, even as Georgie is trying to prove himself. That's what makes Audrey such a central obstacle in the story. Audrey isn't evil, but she's the kind of person who can't let go of her preconceived ideas about someone. In many ways, she represents society's skepticism toward people who try to better themselves after making mistakes. Georgie, who's working hard to build a future for his family, is constantly met with quiet disapproval from her. And while Mandy's trying to balance her loyalty to Georgie and her respect for her mother, Audrey's presence makes that nearly impossible. Every conversation becomes a subtle power struggle, one where Audrey doesn't have to say much to make her point. What makes Audrey such an effective villain is how believable she is. She's not a caricature, she's real. Most people know someone like her, a parent or a relative, who genuinely believes they're protecting their loved one, but ends up doing more harm than good. Audrey doesn't sabotage Georgie directly, but her words, her looks, and her attitude do enough damage. Her disapproval chips away at his confidence, her influence over Mandy causes tension in the marriage, and her constant judgment lingers in every family gathering. She might think she's helping, but in reality, she's making everything harder for everyone. In season 1 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, we already saw glimpses of this dynamic. Audrey's comments about Georgie's lack of ambition or his job at the tire shop weren't just throwaway lines. They were reminders of how she sees him. Even when Georgie started showing signs of maturity, like taking care of Mandy and their baby, Audrey's attitude didn't really change. And that's part of what makes her the emotional antagonist of the show. She doesn't believe people like Georgie can truly change, and that disbelief is what fuels so much of the show's tension. From a storytelling point of view, Audrey plays a vital role. Every show like this needs a source of conflict that feels grounded and personal. In young Sheldon, that tension often came from the family's different personalities clashing. In Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, it's about navigating the real-world challenges of marriage and family. Audrey fits perfectly into that space because she personifies the outside pressures young couples often face: judgment from parents, financial expectations, and the fear of not being good enough. There's also something fascinating about how the show uses Audrey to test both Georgie and Mandy. For Georgie, she's a reminder of the reputation he's trying to outgrow. For Mandy, she's a voice from her past that she can't quite ignore. Mandy loves her mom, but she also loves Georgie, and being caught between them puts her in an impossible position. Every time Audrey criticizes Georgie, Mandy is forced to either defend her husband or quietly agree. That kind of emotional tug-of-war is exactly what makes the show's drama feel so authentic. But despite everything, Audrey's not purely bad. She's a mother who's scared. She's seen her daughter take a path she didn't expect, and that fear manifests as control and criticism. The show doesn't frame her as malicious. It frames her as human, flawed, opinionated, but ultimately trying to protect her daughter in the only way she knows how. Still, good intentions don't erase the damage they cause, and that's what makes her so complex. She's not a villain in the traditional sense, but she's the obstacle that keeps Georgie and Mandy from finding peace. As the story develops, Audrey's role could evolve even more. If Georgie and Mandy's first marriage continues the realistic tone it's known for, we might see moments where Audrey's facade cracks, where she realizes that her constant criticism isn't helping. Maybe she'll start to understand that Georgie isn't the immature kid she thought he was. Or maybe she won't change at all, and that ongoing resistance will continue to be a defining challenge for the couple. Either way, her presence ensures that the show never runs out of tension or heartache. Ultimately, Audrey's role reminds us that villains don't always come wearing dark capes or plotting schemes. Sometimes, they're the people who love us but can't let us grow. For Georgie, overcoming Audrey's judgment isn't just about proving himself to her. It's about proving to himself that he's capable of being the man he wants to be. And for Mandy, it's about learning where to draw the line between family loyalty and protecting her marriage. So, when we talk about Georgie and Mandy's first marriage having a villain, Audrey fits that label not because she's cruel, but because she's the most significant emotional threat to their happiness. She's the person who keeps the couple grounded in their insecurities, even when they're trying to move forward. And in a show about growing up, facing responsibility, and building a family, that kind of villainy, quiet, believable, and deeply personal, might be the most powerful kind of all. For more videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel.